Hello, pharmacy people. Dr. Lisa Fost here from Diversify RX, and I have another great episode for you today. And we are going to be focusing on controlled drugs and managing and really watching your controlled inventory. If any of you are like me in my pharmacies, this was a very manual process, probably had a binder and some paper, depending on what state you're in. You probably have some different state requirements, and then there's federal requirements. It certainly gets confusing. And we are here, and I have a solution that I recently found that Roland, who is a pharmacist, has basically created because he had this problem and there was nobody out there with a technology solution. So he decided to make one himself, which he is a man after my own heart. I love those innovators. I love those people that are out there just problem solving. So I wanted to bring Roland on and talk about his new company, C2 Keep. So thanks, Roland, for joining us. Go ahead and give us a little bit of background of what led you to become a software developer when you are a pharmacist.
That tickles me. Lisa, thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. Your intro was spot on. What led me to create it? I am a pharmacist by training. I was a pharmacy director, and I dealt with too many interruptions in my workflow in my day and too many problems with trying to maintain our controlled substances inventory. It was a heavily manual process, and I just thought for all the right reasons, right? Technology being available, healthcare transitioning to a more electronic space, me solving so many other problems in our multiple pharmacies using technology, and looking for a potential solution to solve this problem, not finding one that I thought was up to snuff, really. And then thinking, well, I've solved other problems. Let me go out and solve this one. So that was how we ended up creating C2 Keep.
Yeah, so the whole premise of your software is really to take that manual paper process and digitize it. I mean, that's really the simplest thing. And my first question, and I'm sure a lot of people's first questions are, is, well, why can't you just do that in like a Google Sheet or Microsoft Excel or something like that? And frankly, it's because of tampering and being able to really track who does what and when they do it, because when you have paper, you can almost kind of see if things get erased, if it's a pencil, or if it's a pen, things get scratched out. But digitally, if you delete an Excel cell, there's no real tracking to that. And so we are dealing with controlled substances. And I hate to be the one to be the bearer of bad news, but if you are watching this, then you have had an employee steal from you. It may not be a current employee now, maybe in the past, or it may be in the future, but I have personally experienced this, and it's always the person that you don't think it is. And they will steal from you either pills, drugs, email, cash. It's going to happen. And so I think, so tell us a little bit of how C2 Keep elevates the process from paper and really goes beyond just digitizing it. It really creates a whole tracking system for your C2 controlled substances.
Absolutely. And just to highlight the sort of unfortunate circumstances of doing business, where as much as you try to put controls around everything, something is going to get slipped through the cracks somehow, right? Like diverting pills is one thing, or diverting cash apparently is another one that happens. But what we're doing with C2 Keep is really creating a very difficult scenario for diversion to happen in your pharmacy, and then also make you feel like you can tell a full story about all the inventory that you receive, dispense, return to your wholesaler, or handle. And part of the reason we decided to create C2 Keep was because with an Excel sheet or a Google Sheet, those are easily hackable or changed, right? And if you're thinking that that would work, I'm actually going to applaud you as saying that's pretty much your entrepreneurial mind working, right? Those wheels are spinning, which is where we started, and quickly diverted from that because of the security piece. And so we solved that with C2 Keep by having every individual have a unique PIN that they must use in order to record a transaction within the application. So that's one way we solve it. And then another one is we prevent any transaction from being deleted. Like you alluded to, on paper, yes, you can see if something has been scratched out, but paper is just inefficient, right? It's a workflow nightmare, and it's emotionally stressful. And so in C2 Keep, not only are we tracking every transaction by a pin, we're also preventing any transaction to be deleted. It's like a full story history of everything that happens with all the inventory you have. In addition to that, we're adding the ability to add notes or reasons. And this tickles me, and I'm going to make a very broad assumption here, but every problem anyone has ever faced, if you do like a root cause analysis of it, it always boils down to primarily a breakdown in communication, right? If you and I have a problem, it's because there's a breakdown in communication somewhere. Even if you have a headache, it's because like your cells aren't communicating properly. So a breakdown in communication. And so what we're doing with C2 Keep is really help close the gaps where communication has broken down, either between you and an employee who comes the next day, or between you and yourself 3 weeks from now when you can't remember what you did, by allowing you to add notes and reasons for why your inventory does not match, why you did an audit and the count is off, right? Many times with your pharmacy system, you just go in and you change, oh, we have 20 pills. Well, it says we should have 30. What happened to the 10, right? It doesn't allow you to enter those notes. And then you might just tell the person you're working with, but 3 days from now, 3 weeks from now, a different person comes in and they have no idea what happened. And as pharmacy director, when the last buck ends with you, which was my case, I wanted to know, and I wanted to make it simple for those loops to be closed, essentially. Yeah, so we have that built in into C2 Keep.
Well, I think the paper trail, the electronic trail, is really highly critical. And there's a couple of instances where I would have loved to have had that ability in my pharmacy. So I mentioned, employees stealing, and that's going to happen. Hopefully you have those controls in place, but it's really super easy, especially when you're talking about C2 medications, when they know that there is a robust tracking system in place. But there was other instances where my pharmacy was broken into in the, at night, and people just swiped drugs off the shelf. And it may not matter if they got simvastatin, but it probably does matter if they got some oxycodone. And so being able to know exactly what was in my shelf without a shadow of a doubt, like 100% that this is absolutely accurate, and you don't have to go back and now all of a sudden do a reconciliation back to when you last did a physical inventory or those kinds of things, I think just brings a lot of peace of mind to a pharmacy owner. So I think diversion and theft and just frankly operations. I don't know about you, Roland, but I've opened C2 bottles where they've been brand new bottles, and you count out the pills and then you back count the other ones in the pill. And it's like, wait a minute, this bottle only had 99 in here instead of 100. Like, doesn't happen often, but it happens from time to time. And so just tackling all of those discrepancies, when you have the DEA at your door or doing an investigation or the board of pharmacy, I think just having a robust and unchangeable, there's probably a better word there, but, a completely unchangeable, written in stone. I got to play with your system when you gave me like access to the demo, and it was really interesting to see, so when you return to stock, the transaction doesn't disappear. It still stays. Like, you see everything that happened with that particular drug. And I really liked it. And I really liked the certainty that it gave me. And I think you found that with some of your pharmacies that are already using your system. What is some of their feedback that they've noticed when implementing it into their pharmacies?
Oh man, you said so much. Before I answer that question about the feedback, I want to highlight an important thing or important problem that we're solving in C2 Keep. Those are instances where, say your pharmacy is broken into and you need to report lost or stolen pills. What we're learning is that with the different states, there are different regulatory bodies that need to be aware of what has happened in your pharmacy. And because pharmacists are busy, we're doing so many things and we're trying to tackle so many other issues, we may not be aware of all the regulatory bodies that need to be notified within our state. And so C2 Keep is also positioning itself as, again, a system where communication is sort of not let to fall through the cracks, where we notify everybody if you record a lost or stolen transaction. we will be that gateway. You have a lost or stolen transaction, and we notify the DEA, we notify the board of pharmacy, we notify the police department if it's like broken in or stolen. And then in some states, the Department of Public Health and Family Services needs to be notified as well. And many people don't know. And so with just a push of a button, right? It's technology. We're going to make it very efficient for you to manage inventory, know what's happening, and also stay compliant. That's it. The feedback has been beyond amazing. I'll have to say, with the first customer that went live, I was in the store with them because this is my baby. And the reaction was emotional for me. It was emotional for me in a way that I did not expect. They were so happy to have to switch away from, they kept a separate perpetual log to switch from that to this. And I mean, and they had just gotten audited by the DEA as well. And something odd happened where the DEA looked at data for more than 5 years and then took their entire binder and just left, which is unusual, right? And that's another thing C2Keep is preparing you for. If they want data, you can print it out, but then you have it there. You don't have to start from scratch too. Feedback's been great. The onboarding, honestly, with our design process, we've made it so simple. Like you don't even need onboarding training. If you're a pharmacist or a pharmacy technician and you've dealt with any pharmacy management system, this will be intuitive. This will make sense. And I'm going to quote one of our users who says, "Oh, this is insane. I did not think I needed this until we started using it. And I realized how much more efficient and valuable this is." And that makes sense. It's how we felt with electronic records before they got implemented. And then nobody wants to go back to any sort of paper management system. So we're excited. We're excited for what we're building and how it's impacting our customers. It's really neat.
Yeah. And I want to also highlight, I know you mentioned it, but part of the tracking in C2Keep is everybody has their own individual PIN. So your technicians and pharmacists, everybody can be working together. You don't need to wait, as you talked about, like handing the binder off to other people. If a pharmacist is checking a prescription, a technician is returning to stock, maybe something that wasn't picked up, you can be using the system and you're not cross-pollinating. The technician isn't working on a pharmacist profile or something like that. Everybody has their own PIN. So when they record that transaction, they put in their PIN and the system records who did that transaction. And so I loved that. And I think that's the kind of thing that we should be able to do with our technology, is really be able to track everything that goes on the pharmacy of who's doing what, where, and then you can look for those inconsistencies. Is technician A suddenly doing a lot of return to stocks and, she's never done that before or something like that. You can really start to catch those outliers. And so, tell us a little bit about C2Keep in the sense of, you're just starting. Are you widely available yet? How can people go learn more about does it work does I need a certain software? What do I need to use it? Kind of tell us the nuts and bolts of how a pharmacy would start to use your system.
Oh, great question. It's easy to sign up. Visit c2keep.com. So the letter C, the number 2, and the word keep, KEEP.com. And from there, you can sign up to use the application right away. We are a startup, but we are just continuing to build and add new features at record pace. Just this week, and we're recording, this is the week of April 6th, whenever you see this. But our next push out is going to have so many new features. I'm going to have to send out, I think, about 3 emails to our current users just to update them on the features that we're adding. But creating an account is like creating any online application account. You need your pharmacy DEA number, your pharmacy NPI number, your pharmacy license number, and the expiration date for both your license and DEA number. Very easy process. We make it super intuitive. And then from there, you're done. Do an audit of your inventory, transfer that information into C2Keep, retire your book. And if you don't use a book, that's one thing we hear a lot is, I don't use a book, so I don't need it. And we still encourage you to make the switch because one thing we're adding into them is the ability to store all your DEA 222 forms, your invoices, and your packaging slips, and attach them to a particular order within C2Keep. So you can't do this right now in your pharmacy management system. And that's one of the features that our customers are asking for. To me, it makes sense. And in talking to diversion investigators, they really like it, right? It's not a matter of if. Let's just say when they show up and they want to see records, you could just pull up C2 Keep and easily find those invoices. You're not going to like the basement with a torch to find your DA 222 form from 3 years ago or something like that. All of that will be housed and linked to a particular order in this one sort of one-stop shop of controlled substances inventory management and compliance. But yeah, it's that easy. And any questions, you can connect with us through the website, c2keep.com. My email is really simple, right? Roland@c2keep.com. You can reach me there too. So yeah.
I have talked to those pharmacies that don't keep a binder, and I just like, I don't even know how to operate a pharmacy without doing that. Like, then you have like no controls in place. And then, when that employee is considering doing something and they're weighing the pros and cons, and they're like, well, how are they really going to know? There's no tracking. I think that just opens yourself up to way too much liability in this day and age. Even if it's not required by your state, I think it is best practice to have that. The DA requires the biennial inventories and different things like that. But man, it needs to, I think we all just need to step up, because we know that this diversion is happening. And you don't want to be at your stores where it's happening. So, well, thank you for spending some time with us today, Roland. And thank you for being an awesome innovator and really solving this problem. Kind of like you, when you first brought this up, I was surprised that there wasn't a solution, like I didn't go out and look, but I figured somebody must have come up with this. And you know what? It needed to be you. So thank you so much for doing this. And I highly recommend you check out C2 Keep. I've been able to play with it. Very easy to use. I love the simplicity of it. There's a lot of white space, like it's not busy and like hurts your brain to use it. It's very simple to use. And I know that you might have some questions or something. So feel free to reach out to Roland and his team over there, and be sure to check out their website. And thank you so much, Roland. I can't wait to hear all the innovations you're coming up with, and make sure to keep us all updated.
I will. Thank you so much, Lisa.